Crouch. Bind. Set.
Joe presents the House of Rugby, together with Guinness.
Stand by your beds. I think this one could be relatively entertaining. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new edition of House of Rugby, brought to you by Joe, together with our very good friends at Guinness. It is a great pleasure to have the partner in crime back this week, looking very, very well trimmed. You've mown your head. Yeah. Who's done that?
Chloe had a good go at it. I got the old, got the barber on FaceTime. She gave me a few pointers. I took the beard in myself, and she's just taken in the size little 0.5 with the old graders into a full lid chop. So I'm back, youthful, young, ready to go. I heard Big Sam Burgess was in town. You got to fucking, mate, when Rugby League royalty comes into town, you've got to make sure your lid's looking good. Pipes are on fire. What more do you need?
You are overexcited, and there is a very good reason that you're overexcited. It is an absolute pleasure. God, you're looking well, I have to say. To have on the show this week, the one, the only, the legend is Mr. Sam Burgess. How are you?
Very well, fellas. It's great to see you both.
How have you been keeping? What's the last few weeks been like for you?
The last few weeks have been pretty good. It's been almost normal over here in Australia. I mean, you wouldn't really know much is going on. I mean, the cafes are back open, the pubs are back open, restaurants, beaches. I mean, Haskell be walking around with his shirt off everywhere right now over in Sydney. Oh, he's got his guns out already. I can't even lift my left shoulder, but I cover mine up. They're not a big fella. But no, I've been good. A lot's been going on. A lot's been happening the last year or two. But no, very good otherwise.
There is so much testosterone on this show, and there is so much alpha male. I'm feeling like I've gone to the wrong party. But
hang on. Is that from you? Is that from you and James?
No, kiddo. I'm definitely beta, and I'm very comfortable with it. There is no pretense on this side, I can promise you.
When you went to the World Cup together and you filmed a couple of things, I watched a couple of those docos that you did, or the 15-minute vids, and mate, it was hilarious. When you missed the train and Haskell's filming everything, and you're just I don't know, losing your shit. But it was almost like an episode of The Office, or Carl Pilkington, like, you know what I mean? The idiots abroad. The idiots abroad.
It was. What I like to say is I spent 15 years building, a relatively respectable media profile, and 6 months working with Hask. The whole thing's burnt to the ground. But I tell you what, it's a lot more fun sitting in Hask's sidecar than it was pushing long runs with others in a more grown-up space. Tell me more about the shoulder. I mean, how literally has it gone completely? Because before we get into that, retirement. I mean, how are you finding life without the pill?
The rugby ball, you mean?
Yeah.
Obviously, it was a very quick decision and one I didn't plan for. It was literally mid-season. Last year in the pre-season, I was as fit as I'd ever been. Well, probably since 2012 or 13. And mid-year, we were from 13 games, we'd won 12, so we were top of the league. But I'd had an infection in my shoulder. I didn't realise it was an infection for about 5 or 6 weeks. And I was just living completely wrong. I was playing with injections, living through the week with painkillers, and then doing the same thing week on week. And I kept saying to my doctor, I said, something really badly wrong with my shoulder. Finally went for a scan. The scan didn't show a lot. And then I said, look, I've had 2 reconstructions on the shoulder. I said, let's clean it out and figure it out. I've got a 4-week block where I only played 2 games. And when they cleaned my shoulder out, I had a crazy infection in there, and it just completely taken away all the cartilage in my shoulder. And my surgeon advised me to retire there and then, but which was quite confronting, considering I have 4 years left on the contract. I was 30 years old at the time, and I was captain of the club. We were top of the league sort of thing. I just said, look, let's keep it as dark as you can for now. I'm going to try and get through the year, and we'll see how we go from there. But I got back on the field for the back half of the year, and I just couldn't do it. Couldn't do it anymore. I didn't tell anyone, didn't tell the players or really family or anyone just yet. I told Wayne Bennett at the end of the season that I can't do the job anymore, and I couldn't do the job that he wanted me to do, and I couldn't justify being paid what I was getting paid to play and captain the club. So we called it time, and that was it. So it was pretty confronting few months, but it's the right decision.
How is it now? I mean, is it literally shot, or are you working back to a point where you can use it?
No, it's awful. I mean, literally, that's as far as my left shoulder goes on the side. man. So I mean, I can play golf. I can get around the golf course, and that's probably as good as it gets me at the minute. But I mean, look, they're saying that they want to do a shoulder replacement, but I'm only 31 years old, so they don't want to do that just yet. See how things go.
God, I'm really sorry to hear that. It's a massive shame for an out and out legend of the game in league. What is in the portfolio now? What is what is Monday to Friday, Saturday and Sunday?
Yeah. I mean, which one do you want to know about? I mean, the Saturday, Sunday is pretty good. The Monday, Friday is pretty good as well. But no, not a lot, really. I mean, I didn't want to rush into anything. I work at Fox over here, which is the equivalent of Sky Sports back in England. There's a 24-hour rugby league channel here, so I'm contracted there. I work on Friday night football and do the Sunday night show with Matt Jones, which is a lot of fun. So that's always a good crack, man. And then during the week, I'm in at South with the team, basically, with their defence and working on their leadership. Just like a bit of their cultural role, but now on the recruitment board and sort of managing their salary cap with a couple of other key people at the club. So there are a few things going on, but it's just I didn't want to jump into anything I wasn't too passionate about, but me and my brothers have started a clothing line, which is launching in a month or so, which will be fun. But just called free time, called 4B.
Like
get that 4B, 4 Brothers, 4 Burgess, something, you know. How about? Do you want to see it?
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah, can I do a shameless plug? Is that something? Can you see that?
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah. So that's the branding.
So what's in there? Hoodies, jacket. Yeah, what else are we packing? Budgies, inevitably.
Oh, they're down the line. They're down. Okay, slow down. Slow down. We're gonna get there. But no, we've gone pretty simple to start with. Just some. We obviously wear basically what we wear. We've made plain t-shirts, a bit longer to fit the guns Hask. You might need double XL.
Well, no, I only do double X. I do extra small, mate. You know that. That's I don't ever do anything that isn't restrictive.
No.
There's a lot to talk to you about, actually, Sam. I mean, there are a number of stories right now, but I mean, just in terms of, I suppose, the portfolio, and I suppose the retirement element as well. Have you found it quite a sort of a mental struggle, or is someone who is, as tough as teak as you are, actually, is it just something you got to get on with?
If I'm honest, it's something that I've just adapted to. Certainly missed parts of playing and being around a team. Probably more so the first time I realised that I missed it immensely was we played in round 1 against Cronulla, and it was Latrell Mitchell out of season signing. They asked me to present his shirt to him in the dressing rooms at round 1. So I've not really missed it so much until then, but I'm driving out to the stadium, which I always do, and I was thinking about addressing the team, which obviously as a captain you do, and I thought about, I want to talk to the team here and talk about how we're going to talk about the performance, how we're going to enter the field, our mindset, and if we get in certain situations. But I had to stop myself and say, no, I'm not there anymore. I'm not in the field, so I can't talk like that. I just have to do my role and present Latrell and let them have their time. And that was probably the most confronting moment of retirement. Is driving to a stadium and being in the changing rooms and talking to the team, but then holding back because I'm not really one to hold back. I'm a pretty emotive guy, pretty emotional and passionate when I play and train. So that was probably the most confronting side of it. But outside of that, I've quite enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it. I mean, and Haskell said the same. I mean, for 15, 16 years, all I've done is follow schedule, train up, train hard, perform each week, win, lose, get ready to go again the next week. So it's I've quite enjoyed the freedom, so to speak, and I guess a bit less responsibility, which has been quite nice.
Have you actually stopped and reflected on yourself and what you've achieved in your career? Because a lot of people just keep moving, like a bit like a shark. If you stop, you die. I imagine you've done pretty much the same thing. How do you feel with that? Yeah,
I've not really stopped and reflected. I mean, I was never one for the big dance or the highlights or I never wanted the attention really as a player. I mean, it did follow. It always seemed to follow me in some respects. But I mean, so when I retired, I just to be honest, when I knew I was announcing retirement, I flew out of the country. I didn't want to be in the country because I knew it'd be crazy news here. I tried to hide and get away because I didn't want to do the big be-all and end-all and tell everyone that I'm so upset and emotional, because I wasn't. It was the right decision. I couldn't do my job anymore, and I always said that when that day came that I would walk away gracefully, and tried to do that, but didn't turn out that way. So I jetted out of the country to Mexico. I don't know if you've seen it or not. And I tried to just have a good time down there, but I got found in Mexico and I didn't go down too well in Australia as well.
How are you dealing with kind of being defined by being, now you're not a rugby league player. How are you dealing with being defined by that? Do you feel like, you can separate yourself now and you're Sam Burgess doing other things, or do you sometimes feel like you're constantly brought back to the league stuff?
No, I think at the moment Hash constantly brought back to it because it's so close. So still doing a lot of corporate speaking, and there's a few webinars during Corona time, and it's often we're talking about, the Sam Burgess rugby league player, whereas I'm trying to separate some parts of it, but also understand that it's exactly who I am. I mean, I am that kid. I was born up in a rugby league, grown up in a rugby league household, so it's going to be with me forever. But also, I'm kind of trying to distance away from that at some point, and almost so just for myself, so I don't feel like I need the game as much. So then I can, if I need to go and do my own thing, I can do that. And but it's been just a life change. But I knew the day would come at some point, just not this early, and it's never really frightened me. And I guess now it's here. I'm just enjoying it, going a day at a time.
Sam, it's interesting you mentioned, as a kid growing up and I suppose having ambitions and stuff. What would you, aged 8, 9, 10, if everything that's happened to you and you've achieved and you've been through, age 8, 9, 10,
crazy.
Would you have grabbed it with both hands?
I'd have grabbed the hell out of it. I mean, for me, I guess right now we're reflecting. I mean, my grandma came over to my house a couple of nights ago with my mum, and she had some old pictures. I mean, my grandma used to take me to all the old Great Britain v Australia test matches around the country when I was around that age, 9, 10, 11. I was obsessed with the game. And looking back then, I was just like in awe of any sort of athlete, especially rugby league, union. Get me close to them and I will ask for the socks, the undies, the whatever. And so now if you'd have said to me as a 10-year-old Sam, hey, you can have this by the time you're 31, I would have jumped all over it. So, I mean, that's why I can walk into the I guess, retirement phase just pretty happy. Not many regrets, very few if I have any really. And I think I probably got the most out of my body and my talent that I could have done.
Good on you. Do you mind me asking about your old man as well? I remember watching if people haven't seen it, the doc, is it Slamming Sam, the doc, which Russell Crowe narrates? It's an extraordinary story, and I just wonder as well, in that you document the journey that you went on, but also, I suppose the relationship you had with your old man. I just wonder, perhaps you could just recount a bit of it, and particularly the challenges that he had and that you helped him with, but also what you learnt about yourself through that and what you learnt about him during that time.
Yeah, it's more so at the time you don't really understand what you're dealing with or going through, you just do it. And I would have been 15, 16 at the time. My dad was diagnosed with motor neuron disease. And you just, at the time, I didn't realise what it was. There's no sort of phones that you can get on your phone and Google that. So I can't remember the first time I found out that it was like a terminal illness. And then I was at school and sort of finished school, but Bradford had given me a contract to go full-time at 15, 16, and I was trying to make my way as a professional, but obviously Dad needed full-time care. But like I say, if I'm honest, I look back at it now and people would think you'd be flustered about that. As a 15, 16-year-old kid, I didn't get too flustered about anything. And then obviously going through the hardest thing you can probably deal with is watching your dad sort of deteriorate right in front of your eyes. But it didn't fluster me, and I was also trying to make my way as a professional athlete at the time. And fortunately, I made my debut whilst I was still around at Bradford in 2006. And then he sadly passed away in 2007. And then that was the year I went on to play for Great Britain at the end of 2007. So, it's just that time of life that I just had to do what I had to do. And when I reflect or look back, I go, geez, that was pretty crazy. that I managed to fit all that in and do it with a smile on my face and without really complaining too much. So I'm proud of the way that we managed that time in my life, and I dare say it probably helped me with, you say things in life, you go, I don't want to get too deep on you here, but I go, there's events that happen in your life that make you somewhat who you are, or they can make you go this way or upside down, whatever. And I think that event in my life just made me see things a bit differently, with probably more glass half full than half empty. And I didn't realize that until I got a bit older. It's bad press. I mean, a poor game. Someone not happy with the way I did something. I can accept that. It's okay, because my motive's always pretty good. And I think I just learned that as a young kid. And I guess sometimes that's the sacrifice of losing a loved one. You'll learn so much, but then you also get taken away from someone. I guess that's just the circle of life, and it's how we all learn.
Do you think that you've adopted the ability to be a massive character on and off the field and actually really enjoy life? You and I both know people who are super professional who are so narrow-minded that they haven't been able to combine the both. Is that why you've always been able to do that? Because you've seen there are more serious things in life? Yeah,
well, I think so, Haskell. I think it's just my personality. I mean, I love having a good time. I love being around a good group of guys that like being they're there for a common goal, okay? For me, what saved me through that time in my life was I had a team around me, and I could go and get lost in that environment, and I could still go and have a few beers on a Sunday, and then I'd go back to caring for my dad on a Monday. And I guess throughout my career, I've been like ultra dedicated, so dedicated. Like, and I don't think you get as professional as you get if you're not dedicated. But also, I've learned how to also have a good time and just take the boots off and take your strapping off and take your jersey off and just be a normal person. I think that's really important. I think some players get lost in being super professional and to the team, but also everyone's different too. I mean, and I wish now I look back, I go, geez, I wish I'd have had more of a good time at certain times in my career, because at the end of the day, what I remember, a lot of my memories are good times I had. I mean, the victories you have and the wins you win and the championships you win, but probably some of the most enjoyable conversations you have post-career are, hey, what about the time we went and did this? You remember? We weren't supposed to go and do that, and we went and did that, and it was awesome, and the coach hated us, but we loved it. And, those are the memories that you actually really go, geez, that was a good time.
How did you therefore, I mean, and it's fascinating to hear sort of how you found your perspective, I suppose. How did you end up in Australia? Was Australia an option almost just of a blank canvas, or had you visited and thought, actually, I want to drop anchor here for a bit? I mean, why the move towards the NRL?
There's a number of reasons why I ended up there. I always had a huge ambition as a kid, and I really don't know where it came from, but I used to love watching the State of Origin when I was a bit younger, 14, 15, and as a lot of athletes, rugby players, league and union back in England. And then this idea came about testing myself in the NRL when I was sort of 16, 17, 18. But then obviously I had a lot going on at home with dad and my family. I had 3 brothers and a mum that couldn't really leave. And I nearly went to, at the end of 2007, I was going to come on a trip with some friends to Australia, but I couldn't leave at that point in time because of personal issues. So I stayed, and then I was offered to come to the Bulldogs when Sonny Bill left the Bulldogs in 2008. I was offered to go to the Bulldogs at the end of 2008, and I just wasn't ready because I couldn't leave my brothers and my mum at the time. But in 2008 is when I got injured. I had a shoulder reconstruction. I missed the 2008 Rugby League World Cup, which was in Australia, which was, to me, was a big deal. So I thought, stuff it, I'm going. I'm going to go and backpack the East Coast with a few of my friends, with Chris Feather now lives here, got a gym, Wayne Godwin, my older brother, and Nick Scruton, 5 of us. If you can imagine the fun we had then, Ask.
Oh, my God. Well, I wish I could come and carry the bags, mate. I would have been. I don't know what I was doing in 2008, but it wasn't backpacking.
Mate, you'd have loved to do it.
There's a lot for people watching this at home. There's a lot of knowing laughter. There's a lot of what are you laughing about? If you know, you know. If you don't know, then you'll never know.
Yeah, it's okay.
There's a lot unsaid.
Anyway, so I came and I travelled for 5 or 6 weeks. We sort of drove the East Coast. We had honestly, it was one of the most enjoyable experiences of my life. We stayed in hostels our whole way. We ended in Byron Bay, and I flew to Townsville actually to watch England play Papua New Guinea. And my head coach was the assistant. Bradford was the assistant coach of England at the time, and I flew to the hotel and he looked at me and he said, "Oh, you've put a bit of weight on, Sam." And I didn't really notice it because every day you look at yourself and think, "Nah, I'm okay." He won't really notice. And then he'd not seen me for 4 or 5 weeks. He said, "Oh, you put some weight on." And he lifted my shirt up in the foyer of the hotel. I thought, "Oh yeah, I've put some weight on." But anyway, I flew back down to Byron Bay, and it's sort of early November, and I had the greatest time ever. And I flew back to England early November, and my friends said, "Hey, listen, let's go and do some running. We need to get fit again." I said, "Okay." So we went to Pontefract Racecourse mid-November. So we were going to do 2 laps around the racecourse. I don't know, it's about 8-10 Ks. It was pissing wet through. It was freezing. I've just come from Byron Bay Beach, so I remember I stopped halfway around my second lap, which I never stopped. I never quit when I'm doing. I never quit on a session, and once I start, I'll do it. And I went and sat in my car, turned the heaters on. I phoned my manager. I said, "Listen, get me to Australia as soon as you can." I said, "I'm done. I want to get there." And that was the end of 2008. And by the middle of 2009, we did a deal with South Sydney Rabittohs.
Saying you did a deal with South Sydney Rabittohs is sort of glossing over one of the great sports recruitment stories of all time. It's going to need a little bit more than just we did a deal with South Sydney Rabittohs.
So
how did it come about?
Well, I mean, I was desperate. I was. My mind was fixated on going to Australia, and when I had my mind fixated on something, I would make it happen. And so I'm ringing my manager every day. I'm driving to train at Bradford. I'm ringing Chris Casely. He's a great man. He's still in my life. It's his birthday today. So happy birthday, Chris Casely.
Happy birthday, Chris. Happy birthday.
I love you very much. He's a good man. And I was ringing him every morning and saying, "Chris, come on, where are we at?" And I was playing with Steve Menzies at the time at Bradford. And he was trying to get me to go to Manly. So I'm driving to training. I ring my manager. And I would ring Desi Hasler, the coach of Manly at the time. Bearing in mind, I'm 20 years old. I'm ringing up saying, "Desi, listen, I want to come and play in Australia. I don't care about the money. Just get me there. I'll take a pay cut. Just give me a chance. I'll do the race. I want to come and play." So obviously the word got around a bit in Australia, and sort of mid-2009, our phone rang, and it was Russell. He said, "Hey, Sam, it's Russell Crowe here." Yeah, well, all right, mate. It's like, "No, it's Russell." He's like, "You want to play in the NRL?" I was like, "Yeah, I want to play in the NRL." He's like, "Well, we should catch up." I said, "All right." And I didn't really pay a lot of attention. And then he said, "Well, send me your email address. I'll flick you an email and we'll go from there." So I got an email from this weird email. This is like a bogus email. Like, give me all the stats and like history of the club. I'm going, what a G-up. Someone's G me up. Anyway, like 3 days later, I get another call. I said, "Hey, Sam, did you see my email?" I'm like, did you send that email? He's like, yeah, it took me 2 hours to write that. I didn't even read it. I thought it's just a copy and paste from online. I go, "Oh, no." I said, "Okay." I said, "It's really Russell?" He's like, "Yeah, it's Russell Crowe." I said, "I'm filming in Derbyshire. Come see me in the next few days." So I read the email, long email. Read the email, and I didn't really care about the email. I just want to get to the NRL. And so I went to meet him a few days later and I said, hey, Russell, can I bring a few of my friends down? He's like, yeah. So I took the crew that we backpacked the East Coast with. That crew came with me to the first meet with Russell Crowe. And we sat in this posh restaurant, and we were like rat bags from the north of England. We sat there like eating this food, like scoffing it in, like stealing salt and pepper shakers. And, yeah. Like they had the most beautiful knives and forks. We were like stuffing them down our pants. I'm going, "Wow, this is mad!" Like never thinking we're going to see him again. We were making prank phone calls off his phone, and then we left. The next day, I'm going, we didn't even talk about football. We didn't talk about anything. And then he said, "Listen," he phoned me the next morning. He said, "Listen, come down with your mum tomorrow, and we'll talk properly." I said, "Okay." So I drove down the next day, and we sat there for about 4 or 5 hours and just chewed the fat, basically. We didn't talk about contracts. We didn't talk anything. I guess what he was doing was just checking my temperature and seeing if I was, the fit for the culture of the club and if I was the right guy to invest in. But really, I mean, the money I was probably the highest paid player at Bradford at the time, and they paid me probably less than half that I was getting paid at Bradford. But I didn't care about that. I said, Russell, get me to Australia. I said, just put me in your club, and we can change the whole thing. I can bring you a premiership, and I guess that was it. And then we did the deal.
I mean, you and I have talked about Russell Crowe. Obviously, I've never met him. He actually came and stayed at Penny Hill Park, and I sat on a table next to him, pretending not to look at him. I think I'm not sure what he was filming, but they didn't let me anywhere near him, unfortunately. I tried to volunteer for Rugby League, and security bundled me away. But I just wondered, you and I have talked the importance of how influential has he been in helping you? Because you told me a few stories, probably not for the air, but just also what a guy he's been and how much he's helped you.
No, he's changed my whole life. He really has. I mean, if I look back to where I was 12 years ago, I was in the same village that I grew up in as a kid. But on the inside of me, I knew there was a little bit more to life than that. And there's one thing that sticks to me that Russell said. He said, Sam, look, there's not a door in the world I can't open for you. He said, if you come and you're dedicated, I'll open the doors for you. And he's done that. I mean, initially I came by myself, and then after that, I said, hey, I've got 3 brothers that look pretty much like me. They can all play too. I said, maybe we should check them out. So I'd been there for a year. I'd been in Australia for 12 months, and I was living in one of his apartments, by the way, which was unbelievable. But that was good 12 months, very good 12 months, 21-year-old. And he said, so at the end of my first year, I was going to fly back to the UK. I said, you know what, I'll fly my brothers out here and I'll introduce you to Russell and maybe you can check them out. So I did that, and they did the trip that I did 3 or 4 years ago, and we were walking around the Botanical Gardens one day in front of the Opera House and the bridge, and we stopped. He stopped right next to the Opera House in front of the bridge, and to my twin brothers who were 17 or 18 at the time said, right, who wants to come and play South Sydney? And George said, I'll play. And then Thomas said, no, I'll go back to England. And so George stayed and Thomas went home. And George, George was 18 at the time. George moved in with me and Thomas went home. He did another few years and played Super League by himself there. And George carved his own name over here. And so 6 months after that, Luke came mid-season on a mid-season transfer. And 6 months after that, Thomas came. So like 2 years after that, we were all here. And then my mum finally came. So it changed my whole life. And we set up home here. We've all got kids here. And that time, those decisions made in the middle of 2009 have completely changed the way my life's lived at the moment.
Was he like a father figure? Did he become almost like a father figure? I know you talked about your dad and what an influence he was, but did he almost become like was he a friend or a father figure for you, Russell?
Yeah, it was more. Look, no one can replace your father, but what I found in my life is that I found people who I respected to that level and whose opinion I guided and trusted, and listened to. Because one problem I probably have is I can get stubborn and pretty headstrong on what I want to do. But I've always had a couple of good sounding boards in my life. Chris Casey, one, Russell, another. I've got a great mentor in Anthony Bell over here and John McGrath. 4 guys that I really trusted. And that if they told me I was being a dickhead, basically, I would have a look at myself and go, yeah, you're being a dickhead. And Russell was one of those, without a doubt, especially in my first 5-6 years. Even whilst I was playing rugby union, Russell was he was that guy for me that I'd call on a dark hour, or if I needed some advice, he was the guy that I'd call.
Really interesting. He's obviously, known around the world. I'm just interested, given your love of a good night out, and I imagine he's partial to a good night out as well. Has he thrown some bashes with Hollywood royalty where you've hit the dance floor?
Oh, mate, I've had some absolute crackers. I mean, sometimes I look around the room and go, what am I doing here? Why am I in this room?
Are you still nicking the silverware, even though you've moved on?
I like taking souvenirs. Yes.
Life's all about souvenirs, mate.
I'm from the north of England, and yes, I like taking souvenirs.
So talk us through. Give us details on some of these nights. Who have you done a tango with? And
I give you one of the best. One of the best ones ever is in 2012. I pulled out of an end of year tour because I had a bad knee injury and a shoulder problem. So I went and did this stem cell. They take the fat from your body, inject it in your knee. It was like before its time sort of thing, and it helped me immensely. But basically, the doctor said, "Hey Sam, you can't train for 3 months, but so you can't even run, but you cannot. I don't want you to do anything for 3 months." I go, beautiful. So I phoned Russell. I said, "Hey Russell, where are you?" He's like, "I'm in New York filming. I think he was filming Noah. Yeah, Noah, the movie Noah.
Yeah. And
my best friend at the time was his bodyguard, personal trainer. I said, "Hey, I'm coming. I'll see you there. I'll be there in a few days." So yeah, cool, no worries. I said, "Have you got a place for me to stay?" He said, "Yeah, I've got a place for me to stay." So I turned up and staying down in Tribeca, and Robert De Niro had a hotel down there at the time called the Greenwich.
Yeah.
And I turned up and I went to Vegas for a few days before, which was by myself, which is
a warm up. Just got to have a little pre warm up. You got to ease in. Yeah.
Flew from Vegas to New York, pretty fragile. And I got off the airplane in New York airport, and the guy said, "Hey, do you want to lift into town?" I said, "Yeah, take me to town." I said, "I'm going to Greenwich." He said, "Yeah, cool." So I get to the hotel at the Greenwich, and I pull up outside, and there's cameras flashing everywhere. I go, "What the fuck?" I'm going, "What the? No where's cameras in New York following me?" And my ego thinking they're following me. There's Gerard Butler walking in, out the hotel that I'm going in. So I walk in the hotel and I'm a bit sheepish. I'm here with his code name. I said, I'm here with Mr. Code. And I said, "Oh, yeah, come through. And as it turns out, we're staying, the room next door to us, Taylor Swift. So I'm like going, no way, Taylor Swift's next door to us.
Deodorant, aftershave, mouthwash.
Yeah. Every time I knock on the door, and the security would answer the door, and it was an Irish fella. And I would say, "Hey, where's Taylor? Do you want to go out? Do you want to go for a drink?" Like, "Come on, let's go out for, have a good time, blah, 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 blah." Anyway, he's like, no, I can't. So we used to love drinking Guinness, and in New York, there's a big Guinness culture. So I used to take him a couple of Guinness every night and think, right, surely getting with security, we're on. Anyway, eventually into nothing. But I was there when the Hurricane Sandy hit New York. So I was due to fly out on the Friday. The hurricane hit on the Wednesday, and I'm stuck in New York. And so I phoned my head coach. I said, "Hey, Madge, listen, I'm stuck in New York. I can't get out of here." He's like, "Well, how long do you reckon?" I said, "I think about 2 weeks." I could have got out. I could have got out 4 days later. But I said to I phoned Qantas. I said, "Hey, Qantas, when's the last flight I can book out?" They said, "It's like 2 weeks." I said, "You book me on that one." I said, 2 weeks. That's the earliest one I can get. 2 weeks time. So, but in that 2 weeks, the whole of New York shut down except in the bottom half, but the top half was pumping. So in this time, it was Halloween, it was everything. So we went to this one part on Halloween night, and then it was almost like a big cathedral that turned into a nightclub. He said, "Lucky best tonight." So I went out shopping during the day, I went to this party, and we were in this VIP bit. And I walked into the VIP bit, and there's me and my best friend, Rusty, and we were sort of like pretending to be security. And we walked in, there's like Leonardo DiCaprio in there, Beyonce, Jay-Z, there's Seth Rogen, but there's like all the heaps of rappers are in there. Gerard Butler's in there. Ladder. Oh no, it's not. But there's burlesque. What's the burlesque dancer?
Dita Von Teese.
Dita Von Teese. She was in there with her whole gang in there. And I just looked at my friend. I went, "Yes, we're on tonight." And to this day, it was one of the most immense nights of my life. So Leonardo's, all his like friends and his crew, we ended up then tagging on with him and his crew. And for the next 2 weeks, I was just hanging with those for 2 weeks, just having the best time. It was just out of this world. So that's probably the best. That's probably the best story.
I don't know what I'm more jealous of.
Hask, do you want to reply? Have you got another Richard Madeley story for us? Or
yeah. I mean, Richard once spat in my face, which is probably the highlight of my life. I mean, I don't know what I'm more jealous of. Those parties are all the medals he's won and all the trophies he's won and stuff like that. But I think it's interesting though, because I don't think people appreciate it. We'll probably come on to the league union stuff later on, but actually how big a sports league is in Australia, and how the levels in comparison to the Premiership and stuff. How what you were doing and what you were doing over there, what stratosphere you were in comparison to stuff over here, and the lifestyle you've had. I think it's pretty insane. Really, people don't appreciate it.
Yeah, probably not. It's just different. I mean, what helps me is growing up in the north of England, being a league player. You're just a league player. You play the sport because you love it. You don't have a huge ego. You don't really think too greatly of yourself. You're a pretty knockabout guy. So I guess that's probably been my advantage with that over here, is that I got to experience life as quite normal. So I've managed to keep my life pretty normal, albeit there's been some madness along the way. I think that's probably helped me as well.
What's really interesting, Sam, is you mentioned that when you first spoke to Russell Crowe, you said, let's get it going and I'll bring you a Premiership. And it was it a 43-year wait, am I right in saying, for the Rabittohs to get one?
Yeah.
Still, I think the greatest halftime interview I've ever heard was you running off at that point. But I mean, talk us through that day and I suppose realising the dream and everything coming together.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, the story's deeper than probably what meets the eye. So in 2013, we so basically played in 5 prelims, which are the prelim is. I played in the Premiership final with Bath, and the whole build-up and getting to the Prem final was like nowhere near getting to the final here, because you play 26 rounds and you have to go into a new comp of 4 rounds of finals, which is insane. And I played in 4 prelims, or 3 prelims prior, which prelim is the one before the grand final. But the 2013 prelim, we went 14-0 up, and we should have won. We had the best team in the comp by a country mile, but we kind of bottled it, basically, in my eyes. We were scared of victory because of the 42-year drought at the time, and the press and this and that. And collectively, I think we were scared of success. And then I think a few things were wrongly blamed for the loss, and that's when then I came over to the UK to play in a 2013 League World Cup. We got to the semi-final and played at Wembley, but in that time is when I decided I don't want to be in Australia anymore. I don't want to play in that culture anymore, that can't look themselves in the mirror and say, no, we were lost because we were scared, or we were scared of success. So I came back, and at the start of the year, I went and sat with the head coach, Russell, and the CEO, and I said, guys, I've got 1 more year, and I'm out of here. I said, why? I said, well, we lost last year, and you blamed it on the wrong reasons. Like, you couldn't look, we couldn't.
What did they blame it on?
They blamed it on there was too much hype around the team. They blamed it on external factors that, in my opinion, don't really matter. There's no external factors when you get on the field. When you step over that white line, it's man v man, it's team v team, it's game on. So what's happened before doesn't really matter. What happens after is but you've got 80 minutes. You play the game, you win the game, you lose the game. You can't blame anything else in between. It's really down to you on that moment in time. And I felt we tried to find some excuses, and I felt it was a cultural thing. So I said I didn't want to be part of that anymore. And I said I want to go back to England. So we got the deal done to go back to play at Bath. And I said, look, I'll give you 1 year. I'll promise you that I'll give you my shot at winning a title, which I promised you would do. So then we get to the final, which I'm like, yeah, we'll do it. I told you to do it. And then the first play of the game, I absolutely demolished my face. I go, no way, how can that happen? So the weight that was on me was heavy, because I promised it. I said we would deliver, and here we were in the big game before I leave, and I smashed my face in the first play of the game. So it was just theatrical. As all, I guess my whole career has been quite theatrical. And that was it. I guess we played the game, and we ended up taking the trophy out in dramatic fashion, and that was probably the most spectacular moment in my career when we did that, because and this sounds really corny, and I hate being corny, and I'm not a corny guy, but it was more than a game that night. It was. I mean, the South Sydney, the team that I play for, probably on the downside of advantage. We're from the lowest scale of the. Of population, right? Okay, we're downside and out, and it just gave them a little bit of hope, that it's possible, and so we did it. We achieved it. We were the club that got kicked out 10, 12 years ago. We've not won for 43 years, and So we went and did the unthinkable, and then I guess I came and played rugby union straight after it, which was pretty crazy as well.
How did the people appreciate the honesty with that, the directness? Because I know you've always been like that, and I don't think that goes on a lot in union, and people are prepared to accept it. How did the coaches in Russell find that? No,
it was tough. It was a tough time, but I in my own head again, my stubbornness sometimes. It didn't go down well, but it changed the whole place. It changed the whole place. Like after that, there was no looking sideways. There was no pointing fingers. It was more of, all right, if we want to do it, we got to do it. Like there's no excuse anymore. Like,
did you think of that yourself, or did you have like, you know, obviously you felt that very strongly, but what do you have the support of the other players around you? Because obviously you had some big characters in that squad.
No, I didn't. I did it all myself. So I'll tell you what I did. So we had a review on the Wednesday in Sydney of 2013 prelim, and we had the review, and it like internally upset me. Because I was like, wow, I couldn't have given you any more of me that year, and it upset me that was the reason why we were told we lost. So the next day I was flying to South Africa to a pre-season camp with the English League team. I walked out of that meeting, I took SIM card out of my phone, I snapped it in half and threw it away. And I went to South Africa, I trained for 2 weeks there in high altitude, and then went back on a World Cup camp, and I had zero contact with Australia for like 9 or 10 weeks. I thought, nah. And in that 9 or 10 weeks, I made my mind up. I said, nah, I'm done. I can't. If I didn't have my brothers at the club at the time, I wouldn't have gone back. I would have stayed in the UK, and I would have just picked up a club somewhere there. But I couldn't walk out on them, and I kind of promised Russell that we would do the Premiership thing. So I had to go back and do that.
That small little incident. So I just want to ask about the face incident, because it for many it's your defining performance and your defining moment, and you've reiterated that for yourself. Can you just explain what it is like to play 80 minutes of what all league fans will tell you is the most physical sport on earth, with your head imploded? Am I right in saying you were choking on blood at the time?
Yeah, by the back end of the game, the blood was going down the back of my throat, and it was running down the back of my throat, so I was spitting it out. People thought I'd broken something in my mouth, but I was spitting blood out from just because it was in the back of my throat, and when you're running, coughing, splurting blood out. And people talk about being in the zone or whatever. And I'll tell you my initial thought, and Haskell are like this. So for the whole year in 2014, which is unlike me, I said, guys, I'm not drinking with you guys anymore. I'm not partying. I said, because I don't want, come the end of this year, you guys to look at me and say, oh, well, you did this and that. I said, I'll see you at the end of the year. When we lift the trophy, I'll drink with you. So, and there's numerous times, obviously, they know that I can sway decisions in the club. So if the boys want to go out, they'll say, hey, Sam, we want to go out tonight. And I'll say, no, fuck you guys. I'm not going out. So if you don't got the balls to go and say I'm going out, you're not going out. So there's numerous times they tried to sway me. I said, no, guys, I'll drink with you when we hold the trophy up. And they said, oh, you're making this and that. I said, I'm telling you. I said, I'll see you at the end of the year. Anyway, so when I injured my face, the first thought I had was, shit, I'm not going to be able to go party with the boys tonight. And that's the truth. I think, no way, I know I'm going to have to get this fixed. I not drank for sort of 12 months, and I was ready to go. So my first thought was, shit, I'm not going to be at that party tonight. I made the part. Of
course you did. Oi,
I bet you bloody did.
Yeah. How did Russell take it after 43 years and all that stuff? Like, what was his reaction?
Oh, man, he was blown away. Listen, for Russell, and this is one thing that I'll take to my grave is Russell Crowe is one of those friends. And people will say this about you, Haskell, what do you buy you? Payne and you, I don't know what buy you as well. I mean, maybe a new bit of artwork behind you. But it's one of those things. What can you buy?
Payne needs a set of weights.
But what can you buy someone who has everything? What can you buy someone who has everything? You can't. It's impossible. But you can give them something. You can give them a memory. You can give them a feeling. You can give them something. And I like to think to myself that I gave Russell that feeling of winning a Premiership. So I won the Clive Churchill medal on the night, which is the best and fairest or the man of the match in the game. And I gave that to Russell. I gave my man of the match medal to Russell after the game as a thank you, and it sits in his bar on his property up in his in Nana Glen. So that was my gift to him.
Wow, that's very, very cool.
Yeah,
that is. Cool. It is still one of those YouTube videos that you can go to, and it's living out every boy's dream. So I mean, and it's brilliant to hear it from you in that regard. Amazing, absolutely amazing. I've got to ask you about that halftime. I've got to ask you about the halftime interview very quickly. I mean, did you get in trouble? Can you just quickly repeat what you were asked? How's the face as you trotted off, and you went,
"It's fucked." So I mean, so the Brad Fittler who interviewed me, I'd become good friends with him during my time there. He lived a couple of streets over from me. We went to the same coffee shop every morning, so I'd see him quite often. And it was one of those moments in my life where, because I had so much going on, I mean, we were in the stadium. The stadium was 85,000 people. It's Flint, and I was in pain, trying to manage not let my teammates see that I'm in pain. I don't want them to freak out. I've got so much going on, and then this guy comes up to me who is a Channel 9 reporter, but he's also one of my good friends, and he candidly said to me, "Oh, how's your face?" I said, "Yeah, it's fucked." I didn't realise that there was millions of people watching that. I didn't realise there was a camera on me, although I know I'm in the middle of a stadium, but that's how entrenched in the game I was that I didn't really recognise that where I was and what I was doing. But it did go down. It went down quite well, actually. I mean, because it was quite raw and honest. It was me, and it was no holds barred.
You can take the boy out the north. Right, we've got a mid-show break. I'm going to leave you with a quick question to ponder just while we do it, because we're going to move on to Union. Which of the 2015 England World Cup team do you reckon could have made it in the NRL? Don't answer now, but have a little think while we do the mid-show trail. We will obviously talk about the World Cup, scapegoats, retirement, we'll pick up on as well. But you are listening to and watching a fantastic episode of House of Rugby with the Hask and the one, the only Mr. Sam Burgess. It's a pleasure to have you on. The Hask. Don't forget to check out our other House of Rugby short series. That's available every Friday during the lockdown. 20 minutes of no-frills conversation with a different guest each week. And last week, we went to the grassroots of the game with a level 6 referee, slightly different to this show. That was Rob Cross, to assess some of the challenges down the rugby pyramid, but well worth a bit of a dial in. Make sure as well you download the new episode of Sports Pages. That digs into the stories behind some of the greatest stories and sports books ever written. This week with Pete Davis, who for 9 months before, during and after Italia 90 had access to the England squad and their manager Bobby Robson. It culminates in a brilliant book called All Played Out. So that is Sports Pages, and do check that out. Here's a little clip for you.
I can never stress enough how grateful I am to have had that experience in my life. I'm a really lucky guy, and I've been to every continent on Earth except Antarctica, and I've met some amazing people and seen some amazing things and done some extraordinary things. But I was at that semi-final in Turin in 1990, and those 2 hours, those 120 minutes, as the culmination of all that long journey. That's what you go to football for. It was an elevated experience. It was joy. It doesn't matter that we lost. I wish that we had won. But in terms of the story and the experience, more important things happened than actually just the result of a semi-final. It's not humanly possible to look after Paul Gascoigne at the age of 23. You literally don't know what he's going to do. He's bouncing around off the walls, filled with energy, yammering away, really funny. And then it's like, hang on a minute, enough, it's getting annoying, but he can't stop. And then he crashes out, and he lies there, he's asleep, he's gone to sleep, any place, any time, anywhere, for a bit. And then, boing, he's woken up again, here he goes, boing. He was a kid. And most of the time, a delightful kid, a hoot. And he undoubtedly did other players, for the most part, a lot of good because he lifted the atmosphere.
You're watching the House of Rugby on Joe, together with Guinness.
So that is Pete Davis on this week's Sports Pages, all about All Played Out, the book around England in Italia 90. That's out now for you. And don't forget as well, you can join our House of Rugby Facebook group. We've got close to 45,000 of you in there playing at the moment. And that's where, among other things, you can vote for House of Rugby and producer Si, in particular, at the British Podcast Awards, if you so choose. Sam, Sam, I know you'll cast your vote. Who in 2015 do you reckon could have had a bit of a crack at the NRL?
I guess the obvious one would be Owen Farrell from the Bloodstock with his dad Andy. He grew up playing the game, but I guess outside of that, I think Haskell could have had a crack at rugby league. I'm not just saying that because he's here, but he was a very mobile, big guy. He loved a bit of defence. And he didn't mind putting his head in some bad places. You know what? Probably the majority of players could have a crack at it, but it's so different. I mean, we look at Luther Burrell. Luther Burrell's there at the moment. He's over at Warrington, and he's a great athlete and very strong and powerful guy. But it's probably not had the impact on league just yet that he might have thought he might have had. Just because the defensive structure and system is so different to rugby union. I mean, I remember my first game of rugby union, I made a tackle and I stood up and I started running back 10 metres because that's what I do in league. And the halfback just picked the ball up and ran straight where I ran back. So there's a lot to change. And I mean, the transferable skills are so far apart, you wouldn't believe. So it's, I mean, look, they could all, because they're all professional athletes, they could all have a crack. It's just who would be successful. I don't know. If I'd say anyone, probably Owen would be probably the more successful.
Hask, you were going to ask a question. I suppose just wrapping up the league before we move on to all things.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, Sam, is that, so many people go, obviously you stayed in the same sport, go to foreign countries, go to places. NRL the NRL in Australia is such a massive thing. People live and breathe it. I've read Andrew Johnson's autobiography. I've seen things. I've always been so interested by it. Are you surprised and are you satisfied with the impact you've had and the fact you came from England, an Northern England bloke, and became a legend in Australia, where they're the harshest critics of especially of the Poms? I
think the Aussies love to hate the Poms, right? So when you come here, you're swimming upstream from day one. But for me, it was about. I guess I took that personally too. But for me, I also had an added motivation. I'm pretty patriotic Englishman. Like yourselves. So for me, it was more so, I was playing for South Sydney, but every day I was playing against Australians. I was playing Australia every single week. So for me, it was this thing of, I can't let anyone down back home, because I knew the whole of north of England, small part of the south might be watching, and I needed to represent them quite well. So I'm proud of my contribution. Yeah, I am. And I think I dare say I've changed the way that we're viewed as rugby league players. I mean, along with Adrian Morley, who was a great success here, and Gareth Ellis, and then since I came, there's been, there's probably 12 players now here in the NRL. So I dare say it's changed, that opinion's changed. Yeah.
Did you cop a bit of flack at times? I mean, you came with a huge kind of, in a sporting sense, and I'm just interested, did you feel that you had to prove more to get your place, as it were?
I never felt that pressure. I never felt that external expectation, because I always had quite a high expectation of myself. But I'll tell you where I first recognised it is so the day I landed in Sydney, bearing in mind I'd been in LA for a week beforehand with Russell, having a good time. That was another story. So I landed. We flew in together to Sydney. Yeah, Hask, I can see you. That's a great week. That's another great week. So we flew in together and we landed in Sydney Airport together at 8 a.m. on my 21st birthday. Right, no word of a lie. That's a true story. And so we walk out. We get to the airport and Russell said, "Hey, this is where we separate. I'm going out this exit and you're going out that exit." I'm like, what the fuck? Are we not flying together or what? So obviously he goes out the back door, I walk out the front door, and I came to this barrage of press and cameras and what? I'm going, what? I'm thinking Russell must have followed me out. Anyway, no, it's for me. And I'm going, this is crazy. That's nuts. And from that day, I went straight to my apartment, Russell's apartment that I was staying in. It was also pretty cool. And it was like 8 o'clock in the morning, and I said, I had a press conference at midday. So I went to the press conference. I turned up to the press conference, and the whole team was training, but the first team, second team, under 20s, under 16s were all at the complex. I said, I'll train. After I've done a press conference, I'll train with the team. They said, "Oh, mate, you've had a long flight." I said, "Okay, I'll get me some training gear. I'll train. I want to train, right? I'll train today." So, funny story, I didn't even have any football boots with me. I didn't have any boots with me at the time. I only brought my golf clubs and one bag of clothes, no boots. So I said to the team manager,
Please tell me your first training session for the Rabittohs was in a pair of golf shoes. I would love you trotting up and down in your spikes.
No, so I said to the team manager, I said, hey, if you can get me a pair of boots, I'll train. So he went down to the sports store and he got me a pair of boots, and I trained that day. And I remember I'm walking into the sheds or the dressing rooms, what we call it, and the cameras are following me everywhere. I'm thinking, this is awkward. I don't really want to meet people for the first time, and cameras all over me. It's a bit disingenuous. And I remember it probably got me off on the wrong foot. I'm there, this young kid coming into their environment, and this wave of cameras are following me, and I then go and train with them, and the cameras follow me home, the cameras follow me everywhere. And they all kind of, human nature would be pissed off, jealous or whatever. It took me about 3 months to crack into the team morale. So that's the pressure I felt. And I thought, right, these guys don't even trust me yet. So I thought, I'm going to show you guys I need to train. I trained with me, still didn't trust me. When you play with me, you'll trust me. And I believed in that. So we started playing. I remember my first game we played against the Roosters, and I just went as mad as I could. I went as crazy as I could. And I remember after that game, I remember everyone looking at me going, "Oh, okay, he's here to play." And that was the only time I ever felt expectation on me was from the people in my team. They were like, "Listen, if you're here, come and play." So, and that was it. And then from there on in, I never felt that expectation. I just because I always had high standards on myself and high expectation, and I guess I never wanted to let my teammates down. So from there on in, I just took it personally, and I wanted to win every week and change, I guess, the way that we played and change the culture we had at the club.
What is fascinating is moving from the expectation you put on yourself and surrounded you in league to the expectation then when you came to Union. Are you happy to go there? Should we pull the pin on this? What do you want to talk about?
I'm happy. Okay. I'm happy to go.
How did you end up in Union? And how much had you followed Union before the Bath thing came along?
Well, I mean, being directly honest, very little really.
Had you watched any of it?
I obviously watched Rugby Union, and I played in my entire life. I'd played 3 games for all Broadleians when I was about 13 years old. So I never.
What position were you at 13?
No, I played 10. Right. I played fly half. Right. I played fly half and inside centre. So I played 3 games, and I just thought, it's not for me. But then as I became a professional athlete. And Chris Casey, the man that I have a great deal of respect for, he said, hey, you should really try it at some point. I think you could do it. So I'd always had a bit of an ambition, but never thought that I'd be there this early. And then obviously with what happened in 2013, we spoke about previously, and the cultural thing I wanted to try and change, I said, I'm going now. I want to go now. And but by the time I left South Sydney at the end of 14, and my first day at Bath, sort of November, December, end of 2014. I'd never played Rugby Union since 13 years old. So it was like it was the biggest wake up call of my life, because you go from playing in one grand final and knowing my trade inside out, upside down, knowing how to lead men through tough times, good times, and different times, to then going to a new code, learning from ground zero. It was. I was going, wow, this is a big thing. So I decided to hook into it as best I could. I tried all different routes. I went left field. I tried hypnosis. I did so many different things to try and accelerate my learning, and trained, obviously, I think, harder than most to get as far as I could.
What was the hypnosis like?
Well, it's out there. It was out there, but I mean, in 2014 or 13 and 14, I started doing a bit more meditation as a player, because I was getting a reputation of being a bit of a hothead, and I kept getting suspended. No, but that's the way I played the game. I was pretty aggressive and emotional and emotive as I played, but I didn't want to be remembered for that guy. So I started doing some meditation, a bit more, breathing and all this sort of stuff, and then I met a guy in Bath called Don McPherson. He's a fantastic gentleman. He works with a lot of F1 drivers. He does visualization meditation, and sort of you go off into this hypnosis state, and I'd give him 2 or 3 different points that I would like to improve on, which were attacking the breakdown at a better height. I was going in too high. I wanted to get lower, and then when I'm sort of placing the ball back, I wasn't doing it as efficiently as I could. So those were my 2 focus points, and we worked on that. And like overnight, it was like I'd done 10,000 reps. I remember the next day I went to training, and I was like, "Wow, that just happened like I'd been doing it for a few years." So I did a few things out there that worked for me, but and obviously you can't substitute hard work. I was very fortunate at Bath. I had a guy there called Francois Lowe, who was a great man. He wasn't intimidated by me whatsoever. He wanted to see me be a good rugby union player. He was a great friend of mine, and he helped me with a lot of nitty-gritty things in the game. And then, the World Cup camp was just a fantastic experience.
Okay. I'll tell you what's interesting. I used hypnotherapy actually in the last kind of 2 years of my career, and it's something that, again, left field, that I thought was going to be a bit of a thing that you just wouldn't. You and I probably you do anything. Yeah. It takes to be the best version of yourself and always try to improve. But even then, for me, it was a little bit left field, which is a bit odd because I'd done a lot of stuff with psychologists, but actually addressing things, visualizing, going through. I think it's fantastic as an add-on to also speaking to a sports psych. I think it's fantastic, that stuff. Yeah,
I think because if I'd not have done the meditation in 2013 and 14, I think I would have found the hypnotherapy and the visualization meditation a bit out there, a bit left field. But because I had a slight introduction to it, I didn't find things weird, like when you're laying there and you're listening to someone speak to you and you kind of sort of drifting in and out. It didn't seem weird to me. It felt like, okay, I've done this before, and sort of bought into it a little bit more. So it did accelerate my learning extremely fast.
Can I just ask about the union experience? Did you say, I want to go to union, let's see what we can make happen? Or did people in union come to you and say, Sam, we think you should be having a look at this in time for 2015? Who chased who?
I remember it's a bit of both. I said to my manager, Chris Casey, I said, look, I want out of Australia. I don't like the way they were doing things. Check what's going on in rugby union. I said I didn't know if I wanted to go to Super League at the time. I wanted to go a bit bigger. And he said, okay, I'll see what's going on. And then obviously Mike Ford came along, and Stuart Lancaster got wind of it as well at England. So we caught up and we had a conversation. He said, look, what do you want to do? I said, well, I want to come and play the top level. I want to win things. And he said, well, look, I can't guarantee anything for you. He said, if you come to a good system, you play some good football, I can give you a shot, but I can't really promise you anything. And then that's really where it came from. I thought, well, I back myself. I back myself to have a crack. If I can get in the 55 squad, I back myself. I really do. And so that's how it really happened. And then obviously Bath sort of took over the dealings with Bruce Craig and Mike, and we got a deal done, and we got a contract signed at Bath.
Okay.
Which didn't end very well. It's not my Christmas card list. Don't worry, it's not my Christmas card list. It's all right.
That's what I was going to ask. Obviously, I think Alex will obviously explore it. But do you have any fond memories of your time at Bath, or are you still fucked off with essentially where you felt it was treated, and also some of the quotes and stuff that maybe Alex can read from 40?
No, I mean, look. Honestly, I'm a guy. I don't have bad feelings or anything towards anything in my career. Of course, you have feelings. You go, what a piece of shit, or why would someone play that way? Or let's just be straight up about things. I mean, I have so many fond memories at Bath. I've got so many great friends that I still keep in contact with now. We made the Premiership final that year, right? And this is one of my biggest nags of my career is we made the final at the Prem, and in my opinion, a lot of the players didn't turn up that day. Right, we can win a Premiership. I don't think Bath had won for a long time too. I just come off of winning a Premiership at South Sydney. I wanted to go back to back, right, and I just didn't. It didn't mean a lot to them people because there was a World Cup coming up, and that nags me a bit. I'm like, why do these guys not want to win this? I want to win this final, and then I want to go to the World Cup. I don't want to just compartment. I want to win this one, and then I go win that one. But I just didn't feel that same level of commitment at Bath from a couple of players. Maybe they had one eye on the World Cup. Maybe they didn't. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading that wrong, but that's how I felt. And that didn't sit well with me at all. And then I went into World Cup, and obviously politics went through the roof. The politics of, I mean, you can all read between the lines of, I think Mike Ford wanted the England job, and then George playing 10, and Owen 10, and me 12. And there's a lot going on behind the scenes that I think people probably don't quite understand, which influenced a lot of, I guess, outside opinions.
It's really interesting you say that. So I'm going to read you a quote that you told Donald McRae in 2015. People who will want to dig will find out what really happened at the World Cup. And we've obviously I've got a little trowel, but Hask's got a JCB. We know what a fan he is. I mean, do you look back now and just think,
Did I say that?
Yeah, you came out and said that.
That's a good quote. That's a
a strong quote.
Someone's fucking PR's giving you that, Sam. You ain't come up with that, mate.
I've never had PR in my life. Nor will I, never, ever. And I go, I sometimes listen to quotes and go, where did that come from? Did I say that?
But do you look back now and just think, what an absolute clusterfuck of a journey it was in Union, because of all the factions, because of everything that goes on? Is that a frustration, or is it just what it is for you?
No, it's what it is. Obviously, it's what it is. I mean, I don't look at it as a clusterfuck. I really don't. I look at it as an opportunity missed, because when you pull it all back, what got in the way of success were, in my opinion, agendas of different people, and then people being selfish. I really do believe that. I mean,
go on. That needs explanation. What does that mean?
So what I mean is, so I came in, I went to Bath, and there's obviously an initial period where there's a bit of, I have to settle in, I have to be careful whose toes I step on, who I don't, because I understand I'm quite a dominant character, and there's a bit of press that follow me, and whatever comes with it. But at the core of me is not that, right? The core of me is a guy who loves being in a team. I love having fun with my teammates from bottom to top, from kitman to owner. I really don't care who you are. I just care about what sort of person you are. And so that's the core of me. So when my initial involvement at Bath is, there's the hoo-ha and the, I signed this and that, blah, blah, blah. I didn't want that. I wanted to just settle in. I wanted to go and be part of a team. I wanted to go and be successful. And at the start, it was all rosy, we were winning games and doing my thing. But what got complicated was Mike Ford said, hey, I want you to come and play centre. I said, cool, because I knew England would want a centre. But at the time, we had Carl Eastman and Jonathan Joseph, who were two of the best centres in the game at the time. So I'm going, geez, I'm in a tough spot here, because for the team, I know it's best for them two to be starting 12, 13. So I'm probably not going to get a shot too much at that. So, there was a couple of injuries. So I played a few games at 12 and 13. And then Mike came up with a bit of a masterstroke, if I'm honest. He said, hey, we'll start playing a bit 6, and then we'll use you as a 6, but we'll float you as an extra 12, really. I said, cool, that sounds good. And then played at 6 after about 10 or 12 games at 12, and I loved it. But I didn't play like a traditional 6. I just played like a rolling around 6. I was in some lineouts, I wasn't. I was just hitting the ball on short balls and off lineouts and whatever. I had to push in a few scrums. I'll pretend to push.
Like Haskell.
I've been making a career of it.
Haskell made a career out of that one. I remember one of my all-time favourite stories of my England career was, we had someone in the bin against, I think it was against Ireland at Twickenham. And they said, I was playing 12. And said, Sam, do you want to just jump in as flanker in the scrum? I said, yeah, no worries. So we pushed it and we won the scrum, and I remember cheering, going, yes, we won a scrum for England. So this is where it started getting tricky, because obviously I think Stuart and the team at England wanted to see me as a 12, and Mike saw me as a 6, which probably in the long run I might have been a better 6 than a 12. But for the short term, my honest shot was 12 and 13. So I played the rest of the year at Bath as 6, which was, I had no other option, because it's best for the team, and Kyle and JJ were playing so well, and they were far better inside and outside centre than I could ever be at the time in our system. And then England picked me as a 12. So then this is where the lines start getting a bit murky, and the politics were played, but I was just right in the middle of all
that. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it doesn't take a genius to work out that I made the final 32. How many players got picked at the end? That's 32 or 33?
Yeah, 33, I think. 33.
So I made the 33, and out of 8 possible centres, I made the last 4, which was myself, Brad Barrett, Henry Slade, and who am I missing?
JJ?
JJ, yeah. And then so we played round 1, the first game against Fiji, and in the World Cup this season, I think Brad Barrett and JJ were 12-13, and JJ got injured. So then for game 2 against Wales, they started Owen at 10, me at 12, Brad at 13, which put George on the bench. Whereas in game 1, George was starting 10, Owen 12. I think Owen 12. Yeah, Owen 12. However it works out, I can't remember. Someone will find the facts. But then this is where it got interesting, because then George is on the bench against Wales, and George then upset, and George upset at me during the week thinking that I'd orchestrated this. I'm like, how can I orchestrate that? And then Mike's doing his thing in the press, and it just got a bit murky, and then we lose that game against Wales, which is bananas. I really don't know how we lost, but we lost, and we got to take that on the chin. We were winning, should have won, lost. That's sport. But I just felt that, people behind the scenes were playing a bit of a deeper game. I think probably the biggest outcome that everyone wanted was Mike Ford wanted the England coaching job. So his job was to try and sabotage Lancaster and his decision making and his coaching methods. And I think obviously with George being his son in camp, that it kind of infiltrated a little bit into the team camp. So, I mean, look, that's just my take on it. Whether that's the reality of it or not, but that's my reality. Because after me starting against Wales, my relationship with George completely changed. He wouldn't talk to me; he was a bit sulky, and obviously Mike was a bit shady in the background. And then obviously we lost and fell out of the World Cup, and that's when I went back to Bath, and I couldn't sit in the same room as Mike. I then had to tell him that I couldn't play for him anymore. I'd lost respect for him.
Wow. So I've not heard any of this before. Tell me more. So by that point, the relationship between you and the guy coaching you at Bath had broken down beyond repair.
We were in World Cup camp. You're pretty isolated from everyone. I mean, everyone would come to me and say, "Oh, this is happening in the press," and I wouldn't have a clue, because we were at Penhill Park. Haskell will tell you, we were pretty isolated, and I didn't really care about that. I wasn't reading the press. I wasn't following anything. But Mike could do press during the week, and he'd talk about how, I remember him saying, "Oh, Sam, I think he's a 6. He's going to be a 6 at Bath, and he wants to stay forever, and this and that." And I was like, "I never said that to you, Mike." So I had to call Mike and say, "Hey, Mike, can you just quieten down? Especially when you say my name at the moment, it's dynamite." And then I had to go and sit in a press conference 2 days later and answer all the questions that you've just said. It's like it's causing me a lot more stress than I need. So just cool off a bit, 2 days later, he went off and did another thing about me again. I said, "Jesus, man, I just called you and directly said, stop talking about me at the moment with Bath, because it's a big headline at the moment. And I have to sit in a press conference and deflect all your questions, deflect all your statements, blah, 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 blah." And then I was picked to start, and George on the bench, and it just created a bit of a to and fro, and I lost my respect for Mike. I really did, and never sort of took responsibility for what he did and what he was trying to do. So when I fronted him about it, he couldn't answer that.
Was it a fairly frank conversation? And once you'd said, "That's it, I've lost respect," how does it play out from there?
Well, it was pretty hot, if I'm honest. I mean, and if really, I think in rugby union circles, tell me if I'm wrong, Hask, it doesn't happen too often that players say, "Hey, I don't want to play for you anymore." I mean, I came back from World Cup, and I literally went straight in his office and I said, "Hey, Mike, I don't want to play for you anymore. I don't trust you. I think you're playing games behind my back. You used me as a bit of a pawn in your game of chess. I can't put my boots on and play for you every week." And he said, his response was, "Hey, go on and take 10 days off, come back. Maybe you'll change." So I took the 10 days. I went to Spain for 10 days. I came back. He said, but this time he brought Stuart Hooper in the meeting, who's the captain at the time, and he's asked me if I'd changed my mind. I said, "No, I've not changed my mind. I'm being serious here. I'm going. I want to go. Let's get a deal done. And initially I came with a deal of I'll play with you until December and then I'll leave. We had some European Cup games mid-December. I said I'll play up until then. I'll leave. But then literally overnight, Russell got on the phone. I phoned Russell, said, hey, I've offered them a deal to play till December, which is 12 games or something. I'm out there. And he said, I'll get back to you on that one. The next morning he phoned me and said, hey, pack your bags, we've done the deal. You can go. So overnight the deal was done, and a day later I flew out and I was in Sydney.
Flipping heck.
Yeah, it's great. It's crazy. It's crazy.
24 hours.
It's fun. It's like, I look back now and go, wow, that was crazy. Like, that was fun. That was mad.
It is interesting though, Sam, because I remember when you left, I got called up by 5 Live, and there were people throwing stones. When we went to Australia 2016, and we got the whitewash over there. One of the things the Australian media did was play a clip of the World Cup saying that when we get pumped 3-0 by the Australian team, we're going to have no rugby league scapegoat. So you and I both know that you were a large proportion, were blamed largely for a lot of the stuff that happened in that World Cup very unfairly. And I said at the time on 5 Live, I said, I know Sam. I said, I met him a few times before. You can fault people for coming and being casual, but you were never casual. You trained as hard as you could. You tried to learn as hard as you could. You revealed what you could. And I think actually it's very interesting that, you weren't, the honesty, people don't necessarily appreciate honesty in rugby union. It doesn't happen. People talk about frank and honest conversations. That's why I asked you about the conversation you had with your coaches, how it went down. It didn't go down well, but you incited change. And you're exactly right. I don't think it happens very often in rugby union. And there's a lot of egos in that respect. And I can say honestly, I don't think you could have done any more. And it's interesting because a lot of time I've been aware of the story that you've told for quite a while. And it's hard sometimes when you leave a sport to actually be able to be honest. So I'm glad that today you've been able to come and set the record straight in a respect, because a lot of people go through career and they never know. Sports fans don't know, media don't know, because you can't say it, because sometimes telling the truth causes more trouble than fucking just putting your head down.
Yeah, well, it's probably going to cause a bit of trouble, but I mean, I'm not trying to cause trouble. I'm not trying to cause trouble here. I mean, when I left Bath, I left, and I left quietly. I didn't say anything. I didn't do any media, and everyone's ringing me saying, "Hey, you got to do a story. You got to do this. You got to do that." I go, "No, I don't. I don't. It's my decision. It's right for me at the time, so I'll make that decision and go." And then obviously when I was in the air, that's when Mike had a couple of jabs in the press, and
you mentioned that. I got that quote now. Mike said after you left, time to roll up his sleeves and become the player that I thought he could be. He chose not to. He didn't.
I had to laugh because I'll never forget Mike's face when I said to him, "Mike, I don't respect you anymore. I really don't. I think you're a bit of a snake." And I'll never forget the little quivering, the quiver that I got from him. So when I read that comment, it was funny. I just landed back in Sydney and I had to front a press conference, which was huge in Australia. And that was a question. I didn't even realise he said it. And I laughed. I said, "Mike Ford said that." I said, "Yeah, okay." So that's funny. But I didn't respond to it because what's the point? This Mike, to me, he showed his true colours. He showed me who he was. And I told Bruce Craig, in fact. Bruce Craig is the owner of Bath, obviously, everyone knows that. And he's actually a great businessman, and he's very passionate about the club and the sport of rugby union. And I told Bruce, I said, "Bruce, Mike's not the guy that will take you to glory. He won't take you to a championship. He's too selfish." 6 months later, they sacked him. So I probably showed Bruce the real Mike. And if you look at Mike's career, you probably look at it and go, "Well, there is a bit of a pattern there of what Mike comes in and does. He comes in underneath someone, he jumps them, gets a top job, he lasts a few years, then goes somewhere else." And and I think probably me saying that to Bruce at the time, I mean, we just made the Premiership final the year before, but I mean, look at the team we had. We had the most amazing team, but we still couldn't get the job done at the time because it wasn't about winning. It was about individual's ego rather than being successful as a company, as a club, or a franchise.
Sam, can I ask you something? Because this actually caused me a lot of drama, because people assume, I don't necessarily name individuals because I think you've been frank enough, but this, I think you tweeted this probably about a year and a half ago in respect to a question about the World Cup, because you'd kept quiet. You said, I seem to be getting a few tweets regarding the Rugby World Cup in 2015 still. If people actually rewatch the games I participated in, you will see I added to the team. What cost us an early exit was individual egos and selfish players not following our leader, which essentially cost the coach, Stuart Lancaster, and other great men their jobs. Tournaments not won by the coaching staff or one player. It takes commitment from the full group. I guarantee you this, I was committed, but others had their own agendas. I have fond memories of my time in rugby union and some great friends. One day I will tell my side of the story, but for now, I love watching England and cannot wait to see them as they prepare for 2019 World Cup in Japan. Right? So as soon as you said that, obviously that was pre-tournament. Every fucker labelled me. They were like, Sam Burgess is talking about me.
You're the best.
Mate, they honestly said.
No way. Honestly.
Everybody said it was me, because what people don't understand, especially sports fans and media, if you're a model student, right, and you do everything by the letter, but you have a personality, you do stuff off the field, you can't possibly be a good team man, or that perception. So everybody pointed the finger at me, and I didn't come out and say it wasn't me, because I didn't want to point the finger at who we all know it was. So you've got some job to do. You owe me, because everyone thought I was the reason that 2015 fell apart.
No, well, listen. Often those people like you, Haskell, who are portrayed to be the party boy or whatever you want to call it, they're often the best people to have in the team, right? You know what I mean? I'm portrayed that way in some aspects of my life, and I think I'm quite a good team player. So I was in an awkward situation because I was involved. I was drafted into the leadership group, okay? Now, I will go in there, of course I will, because I want to win and try and add some help where I can, or if I think something's not right, I will try and help it. Also, I have to tread very carefully on, I understand my place in the team, that my knowledge of the game is probably not as great as everyone else, so I'm respectful of that. But also, I think I know a bit about winning and losing and teamwork, right? So, I'd often go into these leadership meetings, and probably the leadership group was too big. Those that were in it would know about that. And, leadership group meetings are, you discuss topics that are relevant to the team and the team success and selection. And a million other things, but I'd find that in the leadership meetings, things are being withheld, and then I'd go to someone's room and they'd be having a cup of tea and a coffee, and then like they were totally slagging off and sort of betraying, I guess, what we were talking about in the leadership group team with the head coach and the assistants. I'm thinking, hang on a sec, what are we doing here? Like, for me, coming from the culture that we'd created at South Sydney, it was like, if you have something on your mind, you say it, right? But I was also very wary of my standing in the team and not to be too aggressive in my leadership, because I'm quite an assertive guy in my field, in my sport. I was a pretty assertive leader. And if someone has something to say, you say it. Don't hold back, because if it could be the right thing, could be the wrong thing, but there's no in between. It's like, it don't matter if you say the wrong thing or you say the right thing, that's good. We're all trying to win here. But I just felt that people held back on what was right, or people held back on their opinion, because at the end of the day, they wanted to sit there and say, I told you so. And they're the worst people you can have in a team. I told you so. The best people you can have in the team are go, well, let's discuss the point, but then we make a decision, we go that way, and then go, at least we gave it a crack. No, I told you so. But well, if you didn't tell me so, well, tell me and change our opinion and change my way of thinking. And look, I'm not going to sit here and name names, and I don't want to be provocative and say, these people. But I think we all get a bit of an idea of who that might be. And obviously, George was a huge factor in that. That's the only person that I'll talk about. George was a huge factor in that. But I'm also then understand that he was a young kid at the time. It was 2015. He would have been 21 years old. And he's obviously, his father's in his ear, and everyone's hero is probably their father. So I understand their position. Okay, but then what I don't understand is that we all hide behind the falseness of actually what happened is that no one backed the coach and what we're doing, no one backed the team that we picked in, and everyone sort of went away from the game plan. And then we lose the game, and headlines are written and stories are printed, but yet no one's got the courage to come out and say, well, no, that wasn't right, or that's not what happened. And yet I'm obviously right in the middle of all that, so I can't be the guy that goes, no, that's not right. that's not what happened. I just cop it on the chin and move on and get on with my life.
It's interesting, actually, because one of my biggest regrets, actually, was in the 2015 World Cup, because I saw lots of things that I felt needed to be changed, and I didn't feel like I had the standing in the team at that point in time to vocalise it. I thought if I did, it would be disruptive, and like you, I think there weren't necessarily the personalities that could cope with that honesty and would back it. But I did. I took the Bill Bezic to one side, the psychologist, and I sat him down and I said to him, look, we're not far off the World Cup now. I said, there's some things you've got to address in terms of, the way players communicate with each other, the way the coaches communicate to players, what we're trying to achieve here, the honesty. And I basically laid it all out to him. And I said, look, I think you need to go and speak to the coaches. And he sort of went away, and I said to him like a week later, Bill's happened, nothing's changed. If we don't get this right, if we don't fix these issues, if we don't have a clearing of the air, we don't feel like we've got the ability to speak. And some of our leadership meetings we had, only one I ever attended, but I got thrown out for not looking like I was interested. Was
go on, I've not heard that.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So I got invited. I played a game on a Sunday, right? So I played a game on a Saturday, and then Sunday night we came into camp, and on Monday I got invited to a leadership meeting, right? And Mum always saw her 2 days after a game, and at Penny Hill they'd had a wedding, right? And they'd left out in one of the conference rooms. They had these hard wood chairs, right? And I basically wasn't allowed to ever sit at the back, because as soon as I'd sit at the back, they would be like, no, Haskell, come to the front, like I was a naughty boy. So I'm sitting in the front, and Stuart's at the front, and Stuart loved this presentation. He started every meeting with the same presentation about pyramid, right? Pyramid presentation with team first. It was all about the pyramid basically built up to team first situation. He was always constantly talking about, doing everything for the team, right? Never, don't look at money, don't look at deals, don't look at things, don't do anything disruptive, all the team first, right? So I was sitting there like this, and he was to my right, but obviously sitting up like this the whole time. When my neck and my shoulders, I put like something like 30 tackles in that game, couldn't really move. I'd be like this, sitting there, standard, classic me, and I'll be looking at. I'll be looking at the side like this, listening, but looking up. Sit up like this, lean down, sit up. So anyway, basically the meeting was about a meeting. So there was 20 people in the room, world's biggest leadership meeting, and they basically came in and said, "This is what I'm going to say to the lads in the next meeting." Right? And so everybody then any questions? Everyone's like, "Yes, sir, 3 bags full." So no one says an opinion. It's not leadership. Leadership, being told what you're going to say, is not leadership. Leadership is what Sam says is I've got an opinion. What do you guys think we should do this week? How do you think we should prepare? What's your feedback on it? It wasn't. It was just a meeting about a meeting, right? Genuinely. So when Stuart finished, he said to me, James, can I give you some... I thought he said, James, can you give me some feedback? Right? I thought, so I was going to... So I went, yeah. I went, actually, Stuart, I went, yeah, we've just had a meeting about a meeting, right? And he looked shocked, and he went, no... I think your body language in this meeting was appalling, and I think that you looked disinterested. Bear in mind, I'd never been in a leadership meeting before. I had 50 caps at the time, maybe slightly more, 60 actually, potentially around that. And he said, "I've never been invited." I am. And basically, they had I'd never been in a leadership meeting, so. When he said that, he goes, "Your body language is important, right? You don't look interested." And instead of me saying, "Stuart, look, my back's fucked. You maybe sit on a wooden wicker chair." You didn't. It wasn't leadership. I just went, "Okay, yeah, no problem," right? And then later that day, Graham Roundtree came up to me and he got me. And he went, "Can I give you some feedback on the meeting? What was wrong with you, mate? You didn't look interested. You didn't look like you were listening." I went. I said, "Look, no, yeah, fine, you're right. Don't worry about it, because there's no point me arguing. Nobody wants to hear the fucking truth." And then I was never invited into a leadership meeting ever again. Never spoke to about it. Just never appeared in it again. Apart from the day after we lost against Australia, we're sitting in Stuart's office. And bad day. And everybody's on Stuart's office, right? Nobody's got anything to say. Nobody's got anything to say. And I basically stopped and I said, "Can I just say something?" And everyone looks at me, and I said, you are in this room, you are allowing the media, you are allowing everybody to fucking bully you all. I said, all of you are being told that you didn't work hard, didn't train hard, didn't prepare. I said, that's bullshit. We train harder than most teams I work with. We went to Denver, we did these things. And I said, you're all looking like you're on suicide watch. We've got an extra game against Uruguay. There's people who haven't been involved in the squad that haven't been there. We've got a job to do. It's not acceptable. And everyone's sort of like looking at me like nodding. And Stuart went, "James, could you say that to the whole squad?" Right? So I thought to myself, well, brilliant. I've not been involved in anything. No one gives a shit about my opinion. I've rolled into the meeting with the main team and they've gone, James would like to say something. Bear in mind, we're already out of the World Cup. And I said, guys are questioning.
I was out of the leadership group by then.
I stood in the meeting and I said at the front, I said, we've been criticised by the media. People are throwing stones. They're questioning our work ethic. They're questioning the coaches. Whatever happened in that World Cup, and whoever you want to put as a scapegoat, Stuart Lancaster was one of the hardest working, coaches I've ever met, right? But England is not necessarily all about just the coaching; it's everything else that goes with it. Andy Farrell, one of the most motivational, best coaches. Mike Catt, Graham Radley, all these guys worked as hard as they possibly could. Right, all the players worked as hard as possible. They didn't get it right on the field. We didn't execute it through maybe not maybe not the right game plan, the right selections, whatever it might have been that pulled the wheels off. You can't fault the effort. And I said that, and everyone was like, "Yeah, we went and played Uruguay, and they, I ended up doing a meeting where they wanted me to present a bottle of wine to all the staff, which was a big piss take. And again, they wanted me to be the clown in front of the people. Could you do a presentation? So I did a 30-minute presentation burying everyone.
Oh, man, that was good. That was good. I remember that. That was very good.
It was,
one of the highlights of my World Cup tournament.
It was mad, but it's just interesting that again, Sam talks about that. The honesty. It's very hard in that environment to have that. And I know those leadership meetings. It was difficult, but I got one and one only, and then I was turfed out for bad body language.
It was a tricky time, wasn't it, mate? Because I was very careful what I said because I could feel the hey, you shouldn't be here, you should be here, and blah blah blah. And obviously, Chris Robshaw was the captain, but really wasn't a huge voice within the team. He was just an experienced player. And obviously Dylan Hartley didn't make the team. He was suspended at the time. Probably he would have been probably the most dominant, I would imagine, leader within the team at the time. And Haskell, if I'm you at that point in time, I'm leading. But I understand your position at that point in time as well. But it was just a bit of cat and mouse. It just felt like cat and mouse, but yeah, on the biggest stage. And that's what I couldn't get my head around. And then I was involved in the review process with the RFU. Okay, so then I'd gone, yeah. So I was involved in the RFU review process. So I'd go and sit in HQ and I would talk about my experience in the World Cup and my time there. And I mean, if I'm honest, I was pretty honest. I was pretty honest about what I saw. But like Haskell said, Lancaster, Farrell, Catt, Roundtree, they were great, in my opinion, great blokes. I still have a relationship with all of them.
When did you last speak to Stuart Lancaster?
Probably a couple of years ago, actually, now, if I'm honest, but not long after the World Cup. He came out to Australia, spent a bit of time with me. We caught up, we catch up every now and then, and we keep in contact with Andy Farrell more often than anyone else, no one. But I mean, yeah, as time goes on, you got to remember that's 5-6 years ago almost now. So it's a long time ago as well. But my memories from that tournament were good. I mean, albeit the results were not fantastic. I mean, only recently I watched the Wales game back, and I watched it. I think David Flatman and a Welsh. Who did you see that?
Tom Shanklin. Flats and Shanks.
Yeah, Flats and Shanklin reviewed the game, and it's the first time I've watched the game back in 5 years. And I watched the game from start to finish. I go, how did we lose that game? Seriously, how did we lose that game? And you look at it, and now knowing what I know, I see the politics. George came on with 10 minutes to go to please Mike, to keep Mike happy, to keep George happy. Didn't really need him on. Let's finish the game. We have the team to finish the game. We do the job. I mean, Jamie Roberts was their big centre. I'd marked him up all night. I'd been a bit cheeky in the press the week before about Scott Williams, but it was fun. To me, I didn't care about that stuff, but I know it was a bit taboo in rugby union, but things are things. I mean, you learn along the way. It's funny, going into the 2019 World Cup, I phoned Eddie Jones. And I said, I want to come back. It's like, no, I said, good luck, mate. All the best. I said, I've seen the squad you picked. I said, look, Eddie, I want to be pretty honest with you. I'll tell you some of the things that I felt went wrong in 2015 and some of the main people and main influences within that. I said, keep your eye out for it because it can be detrimental to your team performance. I said, I don't have any agenda. I don't really care. Like, I just want England to do well. I don't care who plays. I just want you to have the best team on the field, and I want England to do as well as possible now. And I was very open. And obviously he took what he took out of it and didn't take what he didn't take, but he seemed to get the team working a bit more cohesively or buying in something a bit better than Stuart did at the time.
Normally we record for about 40 minutes, 45 minutes, sometimes an hour. We've done 2.5 hours. My battery's melted, my card is full, and yet I've got about 400 questions off the back of that. So let's just, I suppose, a couple of things. We're an open book, and Sam, inevitably there are going to be some fairly heavy headlines that come out of this. And if people would like a right of reply, we are always open. Mike, George, etc. There are two sides to every story, and you'll appreciate that. Yeah. Just very quickly, a lot of people will say, why the hell are you dredging this up? Why the hell are we dredging this up now? Have we led you here today, or actually, does it feel for you like a point where actually, why not?
No, I'll tell you why I'm here today, because I like what you do. I like watching the House of Rugby on your Instagram shows. Obviously, very good friends with Haskell. I didn't come here to tell a story. We came here to have a catch-up, and part of my story is the 2015 World Cup, and we've just gone over that. I mean, a million people saying to me, write a book, do this, do that. I don't want to write a book because I'm not the kind of guy, but now I'm retired. I mean, if you ask me a question, I can answer it pretty honestly. I don't have anything to hide. I can accept my mistakes along the way. I can accept things that happened, but I can also be honest about the way I saw things and the way I saw things that happened. And so it's not a beat up. If it causes headlines, it causes headlines. But I'm not here for that. I mean, I love Heather Hask. I think it's the man.
But for people over here, Sam, this is an important chapter in your life. Sometimes when we come on these shows and we go back and reflect on certain things, we talk about areas of my career or other players' career. The point of House of Rugby is that it's more about the personalities and the stories than it is about rugby achievements. There's plenty of podcasts that do the noisy stuff. I think you've held your counsel and not said anything for a long period of time. I think you and I have always talked. I think that, like I said, the fact that when people said that, they pointed fingers at myself. I think you've only been honest. And actually, do you know what? In a world at the moment that's falling apart at the seams, actually having a bit of honesty and being able to share your opinion. I cast no view on what you said about George or Mike. It's not my experience. It's your experience. I think it's really nice that you've been able to be honest, because I think especially in our sport, in rugby union over here, a lot of stuff gets glossed brushed under the carpet, and not a lot of people are honest. And when you are honest with people over here, we talked about it with sort of the restart aspect of the charity stuff, is that, when you're a professional sportsman, if it doesn't affect you, you don't give a shit. So your teammates could be on fire and the whole thing could be falling apart, but because you're okay, you don't necessarily worry about it. And I think it's interesting to be able to actually share and say, do you know what? This is what happened. This is the personality. This is my view. So I think it's fantastic. It causes headlines. Give a shit. There'll be something else in the world.
Well, it's okay. I mean, look, but the thing is, deep down inside of me, whatever I say about Mike and George, I still don't have any bad feelings towards those guys or whatever. I mean, George does a great job for England. I don't know where Mike is in his career, but I still don't want. But I just hope that everyone learns along the way. I probably think if you ask Mike honestly, he would go, yeah, I probably could have done that better. And probably I go, yeah, I could have done things better too. And George, yeah, he could have, but he was also a 21-year-old kid, right? But it's all part of the growth and development, and you just learn along the way. So, like I say, I'm not here to tell a story and make a headline, but I know it's probably going to create a few. This is just my version of a couple of things that happened in 2015.
I can only take my hat off to your honesty. I mean, just on that, and I suppose the headline thing, we had a break at one point because everything's breaking because we've been going so long. You were both talking about the media, and we must, producer side keeps saying, please wrap. Just very quickly, the media side of things. Sam, you had a lovely quote, which is, you said, I love my truth, and therefore I guess you know what you know, and there are a lot of people out there who think they know. Are you flustered and fussed by the crap that follows you around in the papers at the moment, the press, etc.? Or is it just part of who you are and you're quite good at blocking it out?
I do know my truth. I think that's a good thing that I do live by. I mean, don't worry, I've had plenty of bad things written about me over here in Australia, and plenty of good things too. I mean, there's also a saying that goes, if you don't take the inflate, you won't take the deflate. So I don't worry when I get pumped up. I don't worry when I get pumped down or deflated or whatever, because I know the truth. I know the reality, and I guess that's the bottom line. It's I I remember one time they wrote a story here in 2013 that I should be kicked out of the country because I was too aggressive on the football field. I go, guys, if you know me off the field, it's the last thing I am. But it just made me laugh. I go, these guys obviously don't know me, and that's okay. And their job is to write about me. It puts food on their table. That's fine. I mean, so for me, it was just, I just live with it. It's fine. It don't bother me whatsoever. I just crack on.
Sam, it's been a hell of a ride, this, I'll be honest with you. But in terms of what's next, where do you, what is next? Where do you want to be in 6, 12, 24 months' time?
Oh, to be honest, Penny, I've not really thought about it too much. I mean, obviously I've got 2 young kids. And obviously they're my main priority at the moment, being around them as much as I can. They're 3.5 and 1.5. So whilst I'm in a position to, I guess, be around them and spend as much time as I can with them, then I'm going to do that. And post that, I don't know yet. I mean, I love sport. I love people. I love being around teams and teamwork and all that sort of stuff. So somewhere around that lines, I love recruiting players and people to South. And that's why I'm on the board there at the recruitment board at South Sydney. So I do a bit of that. And I'm enjoying my time at Foxtel, which is equivalent to Sky Sports. So I do a bit of that. But no, I don't know. I'm just trying to find where my passion takes me, my heart wants to go. But I'm not jumping at any big decisions at the minute.
Would you consider, doing a bit more coaching, having worked with the legend that is Wayne Bennett? Obviously, be perceived as probably one of the best coaches in the world that's ever been. I remember his, when I was coming through England under 19s, our coach Tosh Askew used to walk around with Wayne Bennett's book the entire time and sort of talk about it. It's something that I always wanted to read, but I never got around to doing it. Has he inspired you? Have you learnt lessons, or do you think that even some of the business lessons you've learned about how to control a team might help you in other areas?
Yeah, Wayne's without doubt the most amazing man I've ever met in my entire life. He really is. He's just blows me out of the park on a daily basis. He's just so phenomenal. The coach that we see, but most of the man that he is, he's the guy that I fall in love with. And I think as a player, I always played. I thought I could be a fairly reasonable coach. I knew how to motivate people. I knew how to influence people and make them think different things. And Wayne's just helped me do that a bit better. But then I now step away from the game, and I think, do I want to get into that environment, that volatile environment just yet? Maybe my passion will want to get back there in 12 months' time, 18 months' time. But naturally, I think yes, because I've been coaching at South, I do their defence, and I love it. It's my thing. I love that stuff. But for now, I'm just not making any big decisions. But Wayne gave me some sound advice. Middle of the last year, he said that he'd always be an advisor to me and help me sound out some decision making throughout my whole life. And it's great to have someone like that in your corner.
I just wondered whether you might be interested in tiptoeing into the jungle. Go on. I thought you were going to say you're going in the jungle or on Strictly Come Dancing.
Listen, why would you ever do that when you've got Russell Crowe's Black Book? I would surely, going into acting, being Russell Crowe's security guard or bag handler. I'm not sure of your current situation at the moment, but Taylor Swift's off the menu. But there's plenty of bits and pieces that are still on the menu.
Well, who says she's off the menu, Hask?
But big so. Who says so? I don't know, mate.
Who says so?
Part of the leadership group.
But no, I don't know. I don't know if I'll be jumping into the jungle anytime soon, or definitely not Strictly Come Dancing. I mean, did you see Kelvin Fletcher? Did you see him on that?
No.
Oh my God, it's unbelievable, and I just cannot do that. So the jungle, Hask, I saw you on the jungle, and I was pumped. I thought you'd do a bit better, if I'm honest, but. I thought you were going to. As soon as I saw Haskell in the jungle, I thought that's the winner right there. Haskell's the man who's going to go and win it. But I won't be doing that anytime soon. I'm just going to take it easy, and I've been playing a bit of golf, which has been good. Getting back into a bit of golf, and that's it.
Amazing. Going to be honest with you, this one's been a roller coaster. Sam, I can't thank you enough for coming on and giving it a bit of a yarn, really, and. Just really appreciate your honesty. And, as we said, there are two sides to every story. Anyone is welcome at any point if they've got responses, but I really appreciate you taking the time and having a bit of a roller coaster. And, inevitably there'll be a lot of people who are only wishing you the very best, and there'll be one or two, as is the way of the world, who come out and play the cards, whatever it is that they play. But well done to you. Thank you, my friend. I really appreciate it. Hoff, that was a goodie.
It's great. Obviously, I love what you guys are doing, and thanks for having me on.
Good man.
Thank you, Sam.
Stay
I think firstly, it's obviously been an amazing episode. I've really enjoyed it. Just hearing your journey. I never knew that about your father and kind of the, how you came over to Australia. I was a fan before I met you when we met in Sydney at the Ivy. When I
yes.
obviously heard about you, and before I knew you'd taken over Australia as the number one boy, which I think is an incredible achievement. You had an amazing career. I've only ever known a really honest top team man who's worked his arse off. So I tell you what, when we let the dust settle, we'll have to get you on again, because there's lots of stories we haven't told, some avenues we haven't done, and you're welcome over. And when the safe's open, we'll get you around.
Honestly, I'm supposed to be back there maybe January time. So if things calm down, January Haskell, I think we're getting safe. And Payne, if you're up for it, we'll see you there, mate.
I'm just goggles on, gloves on, and I'll just be sitting in Hask's sidecar. It's a lot of fun. Well done, kid. Thank you very much indeed. That is it for this week. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to House of Rugby. Don't forget, you can dig into our back catalogue. That's on YouTube, and you can talk about your favourite shows on the Facebook group as well. Don't forget to download Sports Pages, the interview podcast from Joe this week, with the author of All Played Out and the story of England's time at Italia 90. Thank you to the Hoff. Thank you once again to Mr. Sam Burgess. We'll see you on Friday for another House of Rugby Shorts this week from New Zealand, and then back next Wednesday with the main show itself. Look after yourselves. Sam, stay well. Be good, be happy, and we'll look forward to catching up soon. But from all of us for now,
cheers, boys.
Toodles.
You've been watching the House of Rugby on Joe, together with Guinness. Drink responsibly. Visit drinkaware.co.uk for the facts.